Welcome to Thomas Opent beer reviews. That would be Thomas over there. Yeah, we're gonna drink some beers because he got some North American beers. I was about to say United States beers, but it's America's Top Hat. We're talking about Dieu, Ciel from Canada. And you clue us in on the whole impetus for this. What are the beers? What's going on?
So basically, what we have is, I think it is definitely one of their classics, is their Peche Mortel. I think I said that right, Peche Mortel. It's a coffee stout coming in at, I'm trying to get the zoom to properly work. There we go. Coming in at 9.5% ABV, which I really love. I love the fact that it's just under 10%. I think that's great. And it's bourbon barrel aged little cousin.
Yes. As you can see, that's his bourbon barrel aged one. This is mine. The labels are different. I have a little stamp there that says bourbon barrel aged. There is a little bit of time difference. We're like a year off in each direction.
About a year off. Mine are slightly young, about a year younger than yours, which shouldn't impact it too much.
Yeah.
But also gives it, like, a coffee over a year can do a little bit of a thing. The aging on a barrel, like, how much impact does it still have with a year? You know, things like that. It's always fun. So yeah.
So it'd just be a fun experiment. You know, Thomas reaches out every now and then and be like, "Hey, I got these beers because for some reason, y'all Dutch people get like all these beers that we can't get over here." And he's like, "I got this. Can you get this?" I'm like, "I maybe," and I can't, but he can. But this time I'm like, I know for a fact I can get this. So yeah, I went and picked it up, and this has been a long time. I don't even remember the last review we did together, brother.
Did we do a BCBS together? I remember that one. I think
but that a year and a half ago, maybe
at least. And we did. I don't know if this was before or after. Did we do a beer with one of those little Russian dolls on it? What was it called? Big Can Bourbon Barrel. Oh no, we did a brewery beer, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Oh man,
Tuesday, something.
Tuesdays, yeah. So Tuesday, something that so happens it's Tuesday or something like that. I don't
something
know.
like that.
Yeah, that's the last one we did.
That's the last one.
Yeah,
we were a little bit disappointed. I mean,
we've been on. Yeah, it wasn't bad. We've been on a couple hangs, just haven't really done a beer review. So I'm looking forward to it, man.
Busy lives, man. Busy lives. So yeah.
So how do you want to do this?
Pour both. Yeah.
Yeah, pour them both at the same time. Do you know what Peche Mortel means?
I do, in fact, not know what it means.
It translates to English, mortal sin.
Just mortal sin.
Playing along at home. Yeah. Well, let's do this. I'm going to read.
Let's
read some info.
Yeah.
I read some info, and then you tell me if anything's different on yours. I'm going to go with the base first, 9.5% Peche Mortel, Imperial Stout brewed with coffee. On the back here, on mine, it says rich roasted malt with a vibrant coffee flavor. After a dry and bitter finish, this beer leaves a lasting impression. For those keeping score at home, mine is September 16th, 2022. What's yours?
March 15th, 2023. So mine is nearly let's say about
several months, not the whole. Yeah,
something like 10 months.
And for the bourbon barrel aged version, Imperial Stout brewed with coffee, bourbon barrel aged 9.5% again. On the back of this, for me, says, can you read French or no?
Amalgame d'arômes de café, de vanille et de bois complet. No, I can't.
Okay. It says aged for several months at oak barrels that previously contained bourbon. So keep that in mind. It's not a wet bourbon barrel. Aromas of coffee, roasted malt, vanilla, and oak. And mine is a August 12th of 2021. Actually, you know what?
That's interesting because mine is slightly different. It says aromas of coffee, vanilla, and oak underlined by archetypical bourbon flavors. And mine is a 20th of December 2022. So this one is just over a year.
Okay. There you go. Now we know. Yeah.
So I have one question.
Sure.
I know that the standard 12 ounce or 355 milliliters is the thing usually for the United States, and I thought for North America. The Dutch, Europe often has 11.2 ounces or 333 milliliters. Why is this
11.5.
304? Why is this 341 milliliters? Why is this?
Because Canadians are weird, dude. That's all.
Okay,
That's
no,
it.
I thought that
And
maybe that was.
they're not even Canadians. They're French Canadians, so they're even weirder.
Oh, that's the thing. It's the French part that does it.
Yeah,
Trust
yeah,
me.
yeah.
I'm European. The French. I mean, you've had these beers before, right?
Very much. I've had a very long and storied history with Dieu de Ciel. They've been one of my favorite breweries for a very, very long time, and this has been one of my favorite beers from them. So yeah. It's. I was when you mentioned this, I was like, not only did I know I could get these, I was looking forward to it. I enjoy the beer so much.
That. Well, I've had, interestingly enough, basically maybe shy a couple of days. It's been 5 years since I last had the normal Peche Mortel, which we see Dieu de Ciel. It's not like a regular drop here, but it's not like very abnormal. We do get it more often, but it's not like something we get very regularly compared to you guys.
Yeah, and honestly, for me, it's probably a little bit skewed for than most people, because I say that because the way beer works in the United States is that each state has their what's called distribution rights. So they sign a contract with a brewery that brings this beer to the state, and they're the only ones that can do that. So so this is, for example, on the back of my bottles, this actually tells you it's imported by a company out of Waterbury, Connecticut. That's what my bottle says. And then they sell it to this other place in Pennsylvania. That is the only place in Pennsylvania to distribute. In Pennsylvania, that place is 35 minutes away from me. It just so happens, and they have a retail facing front to their distribution business. Yeah. So the place that owns the rights to this beer is like a half an hour away from my house. So that's why I knew I could get it.
That makes it slightly more easier to get. So I'm checking this one. It says imported in Europe by DBI Beer. Never heard of them.
What about in the other one? Does it say anything? Same thing?
DBI Beer, both.
Okay.
Yeah. So
there you go.
I think one thing that basically we have in common is that it had a little bit of a head dissipating.
Twinsies on the glass. We didn't plan this. We got the same glasses.
What the fuck?
Twinsies.
Holy, this is awesome. We it's like we finish each other's
sentences.
That was just a delay in the
I knew you were trying what you're going to do there. You're just old and slow.
But other than that, it's like it poured very dark brown, but basically like pitch black in the glass.
Yeah, and it's honestly, if I were to mix these up, I couldn't tell you the difference between either of them. They look exactly the same to me.
Yeah.
Even give them a whirl. It's nice. The head comes back really nice when you give it a nice whirl. It kind of puffs back up for me.
Same.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely looks the part of a high ABV stout. It's not like what I'd call Florida thick, which is thick with like 5 Cs. But it definitely has this nice kind of, rich, dense to it. Like you said, it's more of a dark brown with some mahogany than a black.
If I hold it up into like these amazing new lights that I have, by the way, it doesn't really do anything. It's not like it suddenly gets opaque or anything. It's still pretty dense and
but around the edges you can get a little bit of color. Yeah.
If I wanted to describe the way it poured and the way it swirls in the glass, I would say luscious, luxurious, not like thick, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It just like not silky, but just
smooth. Yeah.
Silky smooth, like a Zoolander.
Silky smooth. Let's get into the nose of like this isn't my normal one, my base one.
Yeah, my base is on my right hand.
Yeah. Let's see what mine as well. Still twinsies. Okay. Let's see what that does on the nose. Okay, because I'm like really curious. It's been like 5 years.
Coffee?
As my buddy Remy, Beer Geek Holland, would say, koffie mensen. My Dutch viewers will know exactly what that means, but then that's like
it very much comes off like coffee to me, but there's a little bit more to it. I'm curious to see what you think.
It's very earthy. I find it very earthy. I find it like sort of almost like that. If you have like the coarse grind of like a fresh coffee beans, well, fresh coffee beans, like that coarse grind. It has not. I don't know if you how you are with your coffees, but in the terms of smell, there's a big difference between a very fine grind and a coarse grind. You know what I mean? You can
Mhm.
smell the difference. And I get this coarse ground coffee. I get that earthy aroma. It has a slight, and I don't mean the green pepper thing, but sort of like a peppery note to it, like a black pepper tingle in the nose, and like a definite sort of like a berry, dark berry component to it for me.
Yeah, coffee wise for me, if I'm gonna go anywhere with it, and I'm not a coffee aficionado for by any
Mhm.
stretch of the imagination, it comes off like it's not like regular coffee. It's not super dark roast. It's kind of floating somewhere in between those worlds.
Mhm.
But what I get from this is like not black coffee. It almost smells like a touch of cream, a touch of
Mhm.
sugar kind of coffee, like a mixed, not a, I
Yeah.
drink coffee with cream and sugar. I don't like black coffee. Not that I can't drink it, but if it's really good coffee, I can drink it. But there's almost like a little bit of confectionery to it. Not that there's lactose or anything like that in this beer,
No,
but
I checked that. Yeah, because does say for me that it does have some sugar added to it.
oh, okay. So there might be. I doubt it's. I doubt. Here, let me see what mine says. Water, malted barley, sugar. You're right. Sugar, coffee,
Mhm.
hops, and yeast. I'm assuming the sugar is probably more a fermentable than an actual
Most likely.
sweetener, because they are. If you look at almost all due to CL beers, they're very, very Belgian influence. So they might be doing a Belgian candied sugar thing in here as a
I,
something.
I could see
Because
that
I'm
sort of like that Belgian candied sugar, the kandijsuiker, the sort of darker brown stuff. I can sort of see that. It doesn't smell like normal, like let's just say the white refined sugar stuff that's basically not sugar, because there's a big difference between the white refined sugar that you just get sweetness from,
yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
actual sugar like the darker cane sugars and everything that actually has flavor. You can tell different sugars apart when it comes to that.
Yeah, I tried to look it up real quick. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time doing
That's okay, dude.
this, but they make a beer called Aphrodite, which is a lower ABV beer. I'm pretty sure this is like a ramped up version of that beer. Like I think the base. I think I remember even being told this or read this that Aphrodite is the base for this beer that they ramp up, and maybe that's what they do. They do more bits and pieces, but add a little bit of sugar so the ABV goes up. You know what I mean? Because that's
Yeah.
for most people that don't know, your hazy IPAs, they don't have malt profile because they don't really use malt at all. They use flake oats and brewer sugar, so that way they can get alcohol out of it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have it fermentable. So the
Mhm.
brewer sugar is the dextrose they use is what gets it to the ABV it's supposed to be at, not the actual malt product. Whereas they could be using something similar. All speculation, but it smells really good. It doesn't smell
It
like
smells
something
really
that
good. And
is, yeah.
moving away from the coffee component, there is this sort of deep, dark chocolate thing going on. I don't know if
Oh
you have
yeah,
these. We call those little coffee beans, but they're basically just coffee bean shaped, but it's chocolate. You can eat them like with coffee, and it's very dark chocolate. Has a sort of like a coffee note to it as well. And that's sort of what I'm getting here, and a hint, just like the tiniest hint of like sort of not so much licorice itself, but sort of that salmiak. Don't know if you know what I mean with salmiak, but Dutch people will know. But like that,
I know. I when you say it's licorice, I don't get licorice, but I knew exactly what you're talking about. I know
yeah,
exactly what you're talking about. And I think that could be that sugar component in here in
it could
combination
be.
with the roasted malts and the coffee. It comes off a little bit more like molasses, blackstrap molassesy to me, as opposed to like licoricey. I know what you're getting. It's probably more anise than licorice, but it's probably
Correct.
I get exactly what you're talking about.
Because the aniseed thing has what I'm trying to get to, like with licorice, it's not the sweet licorice. It has a slight savory component to it, and salmiak and the licorice part that I mean, and aniseed as well, can have like a sort of savory thing to it, and not like
Yeah,
savory as into like really that umami level of savory that you get in some
yeah.
beers, but it has a slight savory note to it, and not to forget, really like a deep roasted malt base.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
really get those near char grain component in it, which I really love.
yeah. If it definitely comes off as a big roasty toasty, like not super hopped up Russian Imperial Stout kind of beast.
Yeah, not that sort of like hopped up styles that you sometimes get where you start wondering, are we talking about like a black IPA almost? Like, are we
Yeah,
heading into like? I remember the conversation we once had. Douglas was here where you had your comments on Rasputin.
Yeah.
Remember that one?
Yeah.
Like not calling it a stout anymore. This is still stout. I
Oh
love
yeah.
this.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I
At
love
least
this.
aromatically, we don't know what it's going to drink like.
That's true. But before we do that, you want to go have a sniff of the.
Yeah. Let's hop on this bourbon, baby.
Let's see what that does. Because okay,
I'm not getting a huge spirit component for mine. Everything here is and it kind of makes sense when you think about a barrel aged out. And again, remember this is a previously used bourbon barrel, so this isn't a wet bourbon barrel. At least that's what it states in my bottle. Um, it's more of a barrel thing, and it's everything's minimal. It's a very similar beer, except this seems like a little bit more subdued on the edges. Like the coffee's not as sharp, the roasted malt's not as sharp. That little bit of that molassesy thing, while still there, isn't as sharp. And then there's probably the only thing I'm getting off of it is like, I don't know whether I want to call it wood or vanilla, but there's some very minor barrel component to it. Out of that, I'm not really getting much bourbon from it.
and here is where things get interesting because first of all, I have been discussing this in a series on which I call out of goud, or like, is it too old or is it still great? Beers that have some age on it. Some can be very old, some not that much. But I've had a few barrel aged beers in there that range between like 2 years old to 4 years old. And the idea is how well can you save barrel aged beers? Because the barrel might fade. Mine is a year younger than yours.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, take into account no barrel is ever the same. This one has definitely like sort of a spirit tingle thing in the nose. I almost get like, did somebody pour a little bit of bourbon into my stout? You know what I mean? You get a little bit more of that, not real heat, but a little bit more of the tingle of the alcohol. I get definite bourbon notes. I do get a lot of vanilla and sort of like an wet oak component. And I find that very interesting because that makes this review even more fun. If you know what you're doing, you can make a base beer taste almost identical all the time. But as soon as you start involving barrels, you start playing a bit of a gambling game. And how
Yeah.
will it turn out every
Yeah,
year?
I mean, I to be perfectly honest with you, I think 2 to 3 years is about perfect for most bourbon barrel aged beers.
Mhm.
I'm a big proponent of aging non barrel aged stuff. Like it's just core 4 is the way to go, or even core 4
Agreed.
plus Belgian candied yeast. Obviously, it needs to be bottle fermented, and that's your long haul agers. A lot of people just assume bourbon barrel aged beers are great for aging. It's not that they
Oh,
can't age well, but there's the more moving parts you have, the more that can go wrong. That's basically how it works with anything.
very much,
So
very
you know
much.
what I mean. So cars when they broke down back in the day, there's 4 things you could fix. I mean, you fix it and then you move on. Nowadays, there's a billion things. So that's why you can't fix your own cars for the most part. You know what I mean? And
Agreed.
same
Oh,
thing
yeah.
goes for barrel aged beers. You know what I mean? Like the more moving parts going on. But this isn't negative in any stretch, but it's a bit more tempered now. Like you said, a year plus, because this one is the one that's a year plus, right? The one that's a little bit
Hmm.
older. It could be the age that's causing that, but it smells really nice. It just smells very close to this. There's not a big, huge jump for me from the base to the barrel aged
Yeah.
version.
And for me, yeah, big difference. I still get the beer, but I do get a lot of bourbon on this one. So that's always fun. There is even sort of like an extra sweetness to it. There's a definite extra sweetness to it, which you get from, bourbon is a
Mm-hmm.
sweeter booze when it comes to sweeter spirits, sweeter whiskey. And I can't help but wonder if, compared to the one you have, this was a slightly more wet barrel, or, and I'm not going to say anything, I'm not going to point fingers or make judgments here. Uh, a wet barrel doesn't necessarily have to be a wet barrel from when it came from the distillery. Sometimes accidentally sometimes the bourbon might accidentally find itself back into the barrel right before the beer goes into it, if you know what I'm saying. Now, I'm not saying that this is what happened at Dieu, Ciel, but it is something that some breweries will do.
But and the thing to keep in mind again, like I don't know if I don't remember if yours said it or not, or if it does, but mine says previously contained oak barrels aged for several months in oak barrels that previously contained bourbon.
Yeah.
To me, that's worded in a way that it might have been a used barrel, that like it was bourbon, and then maybe they use it for something else, and then they use it again. That's how I read it. But it could also be just the way that.
So in the whiskey industry, we use the term refill and first fill. So if your whiskey, your Scotch whiskey would say first fill bourbon barrels, it means it was the first time single malt went in there after a bourbon. Refill could mean it contains single malts 3 times from the same distillery or a different distillery before it received the whiskey that you are now drinking. So the way you said, the way they phrase it doesn't necessarily mean that yours and mine says nothing about that. It just says aromas of coffee, vanilla, and oak underlined by archetypical bourbon flavors. Again, a little bit. Oh, mine, by the way, also says La Réserve. Does yours say that as well? Well, we just now noticed that.
Where does yours say it? In the description?
Right here, on the top of the label. This could be just a branding thing because yours is basically just the same base label.
Mine doesn't say it.
But other than that, it's the exact same beer because it's Peche Mortel on bourbon barrels and the ABVs are the same. So, dude, I don't know about you. We've been talking about these things a lot.
I'm really thirsty.
Me too. This is it's 10 o'clock in the evening for me, and this is my first beer of the day on a Saturday. Go fucking figure.
Cheers, brother.
Cheers, homie.
Very bittering.
Huge bittering component. Mouthfeel, a little bit, not going to call it thin, but a little bit less thin than I thought it would be.
I contest that. Keeping the 9.5% in mind, I think it's very much like silky porter, like high ABV porter, like mouthfeel.
In comparison to the way I thought it, it is. Yeah. But compared to what I thought it would be when we poured it, I thought it would be slightly more, but it's not. It's a great mouthfeel, especially considering the fact that it's 9.5% ABV and not the 13-14%. But it's a big bittering component, as you said, and not just from the coffee.
No. It's the coffee definitely plays a part here, but there's hops and roasted malt involved too. So
exactly, it has this sort of. For me, still, that's sort of like that fresher ground coffee component, which I talked about earlier. The fun fact is I got a little bit more fruitiness on the nose, that sort of fruitiness you can get from coffee. I'm not finding that as much on the palate. It's much more like roast, and bitterness.
Yeah, it's roast and bitterness for me. I think there's a decent amount of hops going on here. So it is something that has to be a Russian Imperial Stout base, I would imagine. But oddly enough, being a coffee beer, the hops have this like bittering, slightly old school Chinooki, West Coast kind of not resinous, but it has this kind of hoppy thing going on. But there's also this like tea thing, this herbaceous tea like thing going on, which I think is funny because it's a coffee beer. So
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, so the coffee has this kind of interplay between the hops that just, I don't know, it's cool. I like it. It finishes, it's not sweet by any stretch of imagination.
Oh.
And because it is so bittering, it's so bittering both from the coffee, the hops and everything. And then it's relatively fully attenuated. There's a little bit of sugar in there. It finishes really dry. Like you kind of want to keep taking a sip every 3 seconds.
It is bone dry when it comes to that. The sugar component you're talking about helps a little bit with the way I don't drink my coffee with sugar, but I do add a little bit of cream to it. And it's that sort of like slight sweetness that you could get from cream as well. That just helps because I love bitterness, but I like it in any product that I love bitterness in. I like it tempered with something to balance it out a little bit. And that's that slight sweet note here. I do still get that slight... what I said, that sort of slight savory component that to me resembles that salmiak thing that I mentioned. And after you mentioned the tea thing, who did I once did a review with that we talked about this? That was in IPA, I believe. I don't remember. But it has that herbaceous bitterness that you get from like Earl Grey when you talk about tea.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that conversation. I don't know when that was. What that
I
would have
don't
been.
know who I had it. Maybe I had it with you. I don't know, but it's like sort of that. When you mentioned that, it clicked. That like that herbaceous, almost like woody bitterness that you can get from certain herbs, like your woody herbs. Long story short, though, I like this. Like,
Yeah, no,
I
no,
like it a lot.
yeah, and it's one of those weird kind of beers. Not that it's weird, but this it's always been a beer that I've had fresh and I love it fresh, but it never, the big thing with coffee, a lot of people like, everything goes away, the coffee fades, blah blah blah. It seems like because there is a decent amount of bittering from other components, it helps keep that coffee propped up a little bit because you might be it confuses your brain a little bit because they all meld together and you're like, oh, the coffee's still really big in this beer, and be like, well, it's probably has faded a little bit, but since you do have that bittering and roastiness coming from both the malt and hops, it kind of makes that coffee still kind of sit up.
Which I wanted to ask you, since yours is about a year older than mine, and mine has almost a year on it. Are you getting any of that green bell pepper thing going on that you can get with older
Yeah, I mean,
coffee stouts?
honestly, I'm going to tell you right now, there's a lot of times in my beer reviews where I just don't mention things like that because I think on almost 96% of coffee stouts with a little bit of time in it, it's going to have this little, and it's not like I'd never call it a green bell pepper thing. I know why people say that. But it's like coffee gets roasted. It starts out as a vegetable product. That's the green you get from it. You know what I mean? So if you've ever chewed on a non-roasted coffee bean, that's kind of what it tastes like. So it's kind of like when people say, "Oh, I'm getting citrus from a hazy." You're always going to get it, even if it's not, even if it's like a hazy, even if it's like super stone fruit or tropical. It doesn't matter. There's orange in that.
There's got to be a tangerine orange component in there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, I agree with you. Is what I'm saying in a very long-winded way.
Yeah, but that's what you and I do. We always have like this is something that I hear a lot of times when people ask me a question. They just look at me after like 30 minutes of 30 seconds of talking, and they just look at me and say, "You could have said yes."
Yeah.
You could have
but
said
what
yes.
fun would that be?
Thank you. There's
exactly.
no
Because then it's like it'd be like we should start a beer review channel where we just hit play and go, it's good.
It's good.
And then hit play, it sucks. End.
Goodbye.
And put it on TikTok and make $1 million. Maybe show her penis every now and then. Put it on OnlyFans. It'd be great.
Well, I mean, I've taken my shirt off on YouTube before, so it would only be a small step for me to go.
I'm pretty sure I've been half naked on YouTube, so yeah.
It's always fun. Let's get to the bourbon version of this because I'm curious what the differences are going to be between yours and mine. So again, cheers, buddy.
Cheers. Yeah, it's like way more different than aromatically for me. It's definitely a bourbon barrel aged beer. It's not hot. It's not big. It's not bourbon over the top for me. But let's put it this way. I love this beer, and this has always been on my like classic list of like beers I've always loved.
Yeah.
The bourbon barrel aged version is better. It is because it adds this little. Again, since we're kind of on the topic of it, kind of talking about black coffee versus cream and sugar. It's adding that little dollop of cream or a little bit of dollop of cream and sugar to that coffee, and adds a little sweetness that I think is welcome. It's not a sweet beer now; it's a sweeter than this one was. That's how I would frame it, and ends up bringing just a little bit of that spirit, a little bit of that red cherry, a little bit of that barrel, a little bit of dollop of I would call it just like vanilla, maybe just a skosh on top of a really nice coffee.
Skadoosh. Sorry, when you say skoosh, I hear skadoosh. So for me, again, it's. I wish we were sitting right next to each other.
When you pause. When you hear skadoosh, what do you think of when you think of skadoosh?
These days, I always think about Jack Black in Kung Fu Panda.
Okay.
Like the skadoosh,
Okay.
Fucking little fruit front. And you?
Either Jane Silent Bob or Alchemist beer. They make a beer called skadoosh.
Jane Silent Bob is a good one. I should have remembered that. And now because Alchemist is, of course, we know Alchemist, but basically everybody knows him because of Heady and Vocal.
Yeah, they have a beer called Skadoosh.
Yeah, but I do now that you mentioned, I do know that they have that one.
I've never seen
pop up.
Kung Fu Panda. How about that?
Actually, the first three are actually a lot better than you might think. So I could definitely recommend those.
I got an almost 3-year-old. I'm gonna see them soon.
You're definitely gonna see them. I mean, I've been seeing a lot of kid stuff lately, and I forgot, like, just completely off topic right now. There's this animated version, not as a movie, but as a show of the Smurfs, which absolutely fucking parodied Zack Snyder's slow-mo, over-the-top action shit where Brainy did a thing where he was trying to hit somebody, and you saw this incredibly over-the-top slow-mo action thing going on. I was like, that's freaking Zack Snyder parody of the Smurfs.
Can I say something else?
Yeah.
DC is such hot garbage. I won't watch any of it, so I don't know what you're talking about.
You're entitled to your opinion, man, and in a way, I can agree because
I can't do it. I've tried, and I'm like, this is like such GoBots, Walmart, like knockoff Kmart bullshit.
The Flash was actually sort of not as bad as everybody said.
The Flash TV show was good.
The Flash didn't. Oh no, well, yes, but in the last 2 or 3 seasons, that went downhill.
No, the first. I only watched the first season or 2. Yeah,
the first 3 seasons were legit great. 4 was a bit weird. 5 was better again, and after that, it just went downhill. But in any case, what I wanted to say was, if we
much like a bourbon barrel aged beer.
Yes,
segue back.
I am very. There's a good segue. I'm very curious as to what the differences would be if we put the glasses, if we were together right now, because again, I feel like this could have done with maybe somewhere between 6 to 12 months of age on it, and maybe temper that bourbon to where it's like yours is, because I find the bourbon not unpleasant here. I actually really enjoy it, but it's a bit on the nose. It's a bit not heavy-handed, but really feels like it was this beer, like the base, with a splash of bourbon added to it, which can be a very fun thing to do. Add a little bit of bourbon to some, but it's a bit too overpowering right now, and I think that's why I might like the base.
Well, I mean, let's have this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And what's your bare minimum? Like, if a brewery's going to bourbon barrel age something, do you have a bare minimum in your mind you want it to be in a barrel? Like, bare minimum. I'm not saying like idealistic amount of time. I'm saying this is
it's always so difficult because it so much depends on the barrel. How old is it? How old is the whiskey that was in it before it was taken out? Like, has it been in there for 4 years?
A fresh, not dried out bourbon barrel. You know what I mean? Like, not gushing wet. It doesn't have like a gallon of bourbon left in it. It's just wet, like a typical barrel. Like how?
Okay.
Like,
and assuming that it was a beer like this, like a sort of like a 4-core, no real bullshit, like 9.5% ABV, maybe some coffee added to it, I would say I think 6 to 9 months would be ideal. Because I think because some breweries are like, oh, we have to put it in there for like 2 years, and I'm like, dude, careful, just check, please check. Don't put it in there for 2 years because you want to, but check after like 6 months. So I think like somewhere between 6 to 9 months, but that would be for a beer like this. That would be, I think, ideal. How about you?
I disagree.
Okay.
I think if you barrel age anything like this, we're talking, this is 10%, 9.5, 10%, 10 to 15%. If you're doing under a year, I think you're an asshole. And in a perfect world, I think 2 to 3 years is about wheelhouse. But, and I say that with a big, yeah. I think this says several months, so this could be less than 6. We don't fucking know. It says several months on the bottle. We don't know. And they're not saying 6 months. Several months is 3 or above, right? 4 or above. What's 7? 4?
That's how I would interpret it.
You know what I mean?
So, and I would interpret. I would like to add. I would interpret it as less than 6 months. Because several.
So 6 months to me is not a lot of time. You know what I mean? Obviously, barrels, it depends on the barrel, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's like, I think I would base a year is about minimum. But due to Ciel, I'm not sure if they do this. I'm sure I would assume they do, because almost all breweries do, but some don't because they're very stubborn.
Mm-hmm.
What you want to do is you want to you want to do this in batches, and you want to put it in for 6 months, a year, and 2 years, and then blend it into something that's fantastic. That's why Firestone Walkers, all their beers are great, because they don't open the cask and pour it in a bottle and cap it and send it to you. They blend it together until it's the way they want it to be, and then they send it to you. So that's the thing too. So several months on this, I would like to see this beer at a year, because while the bourbon in here definitely comes through more for me on a taste and it doesn't a nose, it's still the beer it's still 3/4. Like, it's not like, I don't want to say it that way, because that's not how I want to portray it, but it's very much beer with a bit of bourbon barrel aging, as opposed to an even partnership. If it's maybe not the way I want to phrase it, but I like the bourbon. I know you said it's hot for you, and to a certain extent, I would like the bourbon, because I'd like the bourbon barrel aging to be a little bit more prominent, because of how bittering and how roasty toasty the beer is.
I agree with that. And I will have to put a caveat to this. It also very much depends on my mood, because I've had times when I want a bourbon barrel aged beer, but I also really crave like a bourbon, because I by the way, love bourbon. A lot of people might not think that's weird, because being from Europe, or the Netherlands specifically, a lot of people here go like, bourbon is not real whiskey. It's really kind of difficult to get bourbon here as a product to sell. But I love bourbon, and there are moments where I just want to taste bourbon, and I have these barrel-aged beers. But there's also moments where I just feel like I want a nice beer, and maybe a little bit of a nice barrel coming through. And I think that the point that I'm trying to make is, again, very long-winded. Is it always depends on my mood and what am I looking for? Because I've had beers that have been aged for like 2-3 years on whatever barrel you want, and you might think that everything is going to be too heavy-handed, and then just try them and feel that everything is perfectly balanced, and you still get plenty of the base beer. I will say I am still getting the base beer in this bourbon barrel-aged version. I'm still tasting the Peche Mortel. I just feel that the bourbon itself, it's not coming through too hot, but a little bit more. I feel like everything I try to say, like in your face or whatever, is overstating it, but it's just a little bit more there than I would have expected.
When I break down bourbon barrel aged beers, no, it makes sense, because I think I'm gonna help us out here with this kind of way I think about bourbon barrel aged beers. Is that, how do I say it? So I usually break them down into pieces. So for example, this is a bourbon barrel aged, so it's a stout in bourbon barrels with coffee. So there's 4 components. That's how I would break it down.
Fair. Because it's not just bourbon barrel, it's bourbon
and a barrel. And then if we grade all those components as far as expression on a scale from 1 to 10, I usually want them all to be 8s, or I want them all to be 9s, or I want them all to be 7s. This is like, the beer no roasty toastiness is the 10, the spirit is an 8, the coffee is a 7, and the barrel is a 6. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm going to break it down that way, is that then there's nothing wrong with having variance, but it's very distinct in how it's done. And when that happens with a beer, bourbon barrel aged or not, if you could break down the same thing when it comes to hops and malt and all that stuff, yeast, how prominent they affect the beer. You want everything to work together, and it feels like the components in here, while tasty, are a little bit kind of working on their, not working by themselves, but they're very much distinct in their own.
I feel that is a very fair point. And like I said, what I really appreciate what you just said is the fact that you shouldn't look at it as a bourbon barrel, but as a bourbon and a barrel, because so many people still forget that when you're barrel aging, it's not just the previous product that was in the barrel that's still doing a thing. It's definitely still the wood. It's still a living component. It's still something that's going to give off its own unique flavor. Was it an American oak barrel? Was it a French oak barrel? How was it treated? How was it charred, burned? What's the crocodile skin texture? They sometimes all these things is going to bring in its own unique flavor. And I find that a very underappreciated factor for barrel aging, both by I think some breweries, but also by the people who are drinking the product and are just focusing way too much on just what was in the barrel before.
Yeah, I mean, barrel aging is such a crazy process because it's like some of the better breweries that I know do barrel aging stuff. There's so much to it. It's not just throwing beer in a barrel, man. It's like in New Jersey and other breweries have told me this, but I have it on tape from the owner, so I can talk about it more. Like that is Kane Brewing here in New Jersey. They have a great barrel aging program. They actually have all their barrels. They're all on a carousel that in the barrel every so often rotates. So the barrel, it's not just sitting in a barrel stagnant. It's like because depending on the time of the day and the temperature and the ambient temperature of the warehouse and all these other things that come into play, they try to keep it at a specific way that it's just not like throw it in there, forget about it, come back, do it. And a lot of breweries do that, and they do it really, really well. But some of the ones that the best one, Firestone Walker, all those, there's way more of a science to it than just throw it in the barrel and have at it.
Microclimate in a warehouse.
Yeah.
Is you can put it in one corner and compare it to another corner of the warehouse. You could have a completely different humidity. You could have a corner where it's a little bit more damp. So maybe some sort of fungus bacteria thing is going on. You could have a very dry area. How much sunlight is hitting that spot? So more sunlight is maybe heating up that specific area of a warehouse. It is such a complete. Well, you just said science. It's such a process that needs to be continuously maintained and investigated and kept under check, because you have no idea what's going to happen. It is literally taking your product and putting it in a barrel and not knowing what it's going to do.
But here's the thing: it's technically science, but the breweries that have done amazing things with beer, like again, Cantillon, they've done this, but without the science. They did it not knowing that they were doing the science right. You know what I mean? Like their processes is what makes their beer fantastic. Their processes are scientific happening, but they didn't be like, we're doing this. They just happened upon the science. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think we're getting a little bit too far away from the actual beer itself. I think these conversations
fair enough.
Good to have, but
very interesting. They're always good because let's face it, in all the 6,000 years that we've been making beer, one of the biggest components, yeast, bacteria, has only been known to us for about 175 years.
Yeah,
like since the 1850s, give or take.
Yeah,
I mean, before that, everybody was basically just fucking around,
magic.
And it was magic. But they sort of learned.
It's still magic. We just have a name for it now.
It's quite magical. It's what was it again? Any technology. Oh, there's this one quote, and it ends in indistinguishable from magic. Arthur C. Clarke said it. No, not Arthur C. Clarke. What was the other one? Anyway, what it comes down to is everything you don't understand can come across as magic. Before we end the review, though, by the way, I'm very curious. How's the snow going right now? Because people don't know this, but
it's snowing like crazy here. Let me take a. I don't know if the video is going to do it proper.
Yeah, people might, while you're filming this, people might not know this, but I did happen to know this about your general area, but you're getting some pretty heavy snowfall tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt we're going to get a foot, but we're getting more than a half foot of snow now. For all your Dutch people, that would be, I don't know how many centimeters. But yeah, we're going to get about this much snow.
Which is for most Dutch people these days quite a lot, because we haven't really got that much snow. We get that rarely these days.
Yeah, let's see how's it going out there. I don't know how bad it is.
Oh, that's gorgeous, man. That's beautiful. Oh, I'll put you in solo layout for a second so people can properly see. Let me give you two. Hang on a little bit. You're in solo layout right now. So first of all, I just want people to understand that Matt just lives in like heaven when it comes to his countryside and his farm and whatever. But yeah, that's beautiful, man.
This has been going on since about 2 hours ago, and it's not supposed to stop until Sunday morning. So that'll give you an idea. It's supposed to be like this and heavier for the next 12 hours.
Your kid is going to be so happy tomorrow morning.
Oh yeah, it's going to be the first. I think it's going to be the first time he's got to play and still proper. Like this last year he played, but he was so young that he just didn't really process it. You know, so I think like let's put it this way. I haven't watched the video yet because my wife sent it to me while we're recording here. But I think he's already excited because this is the snapshot of the video that she sent me.
I can tell.
Hold on.
I'll put you in. I'll put you in solo layout for him.
Yeah, he's just pointing out at the snow. So my kid's very excited about what's going on out there. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Look at him being happy. It's got a great laugh, man. Look at him being happy. Fun fact, by the way, we talked about this right before we started. I don't know exactly at what time, and I'm not sure what's going to happen because there's also. But my youngest nephew, my sister's youngest kid, he's by the way like almost 30. Might get stuck about 45 minutes from you.
Yeah.
Tonight.
Like I said,
stuck at an airport because his flight might.
What do you know? What if he's going? Do you know he's going where he's going? Like, is he going to actual JFK or is he going to Newark?
I have no idea. All I heard was New York. All I heard was he had to.
It's probably JFK. If he's going to JFK, he should be fine. So. And if it's really bad, they'll divert him to Philly. And if they divert him to Philly, it's just raining. Like if I drive half an hour north of me, we're getting twice as much snow. If I drive a half an hour south, it's all right. That's how crazy it is where I live. So.
And that's what I just love about this sort of almost 6 degrees of separation bullshit is that here am I from the Netherlands, here's you in the United States, and there's this fun happenstance that my Uncle Sayer is going to be like really close
right down the street. Tell him.
I think that's fucking funny.
Tell him to take the train to my house. He can spend the night.
I'll tell him. I mean, there might be 2 people. I think his girlfriend.
I have enough beer.
He'll if I see a review pop up tomorrow on YouTube of you and my nephew doing a beer review, I'm gonna freak out. Great, man. Dude.
Wait.
We digressed a lot on the subject, but I will say that this entire review will probably be about 40 minutes long.
Yeah, we're at 50 minutes now with the jibber jabber beforehand.
Yeah, but
which one do you like better?
So I don't know. The moment that I said that I think I like this one better until now, I've been sipping on both of them more and more. I think I'm going to have to agree with you that even though I think this is... What's that one meme again? It's from Top Gear, the British show. Remember the cars? He's always like, this is brilliant and fantastic and amazing, but I like this. I think I like the... I think I like the bourbon...
I'll say it. I'll give you an out clause. I think they're both as good as each other, just different.
And really depending on what you're looking for. And if you do want something with a little bit more sweetness, but still all the things that the base beer has, definitely go for the bourbon variant. But if you really want something where the roasty, toasty bitterness, the coffee bitterness, the hop bitterness, and everything shines, go for the base stout. Basically, I think that's it. But both are absolutely fucking amazing.
Hold on, I gotta text my wife. We're gonna mix these, right? Cuvée and see what that's all about.
Yeah, dude, we can do that. But I'm gonna grab a separate glass for that if you don't mind. So I'll be back in like 3 seconds.
Yeah, so there you go. That's pretty fun. I love this beer. And I didn't put my little thingies on them.
And I'm back because I like the idea. I like the idea of being able to drink them separately still, but I still have some left in the bottle, so I can cuvée.
Yeah, I got a decent amount left in the bottle.
Same, and I still want to enjoy both of them separately, but I am going to cuvée. And for those of you, what are you doing?
I'm looking for my bottle stoppers.
Oh, yeah, I get that.
Here's the one thing I always forgot about until this second. Is one of my favorite things about Dieu, Ciel. I'll give you 5 guesses why this bottle, there's your hint, is one of the weirdest craft bottles in the history of craft beer. Can you guess? Inspect the bottles and see if you see something really weird that you don't see in craft beer at all.
What the fuck?
Yep.
You know, I was looking.
They're twist-offs.
During the review, I was looking at them in my corner of my eye, and I was like, "Oh, is this like slightly damaged or something?" And
no, they're twisties. You don't need a bottle opener. You can twist them off with your hands.
But I used the bottle opener.
When's the last time you saw a twist off on a craft beer? Not just craft beer, but a really good one.
Wait, like, guys, you guys need to see this. Can you wait? I need to put my. I hope people can.
Yeah, they can see you. Yeah.
It's a fucking
twisties
on a fucking.
It's been that way since I found them several years ago. They've always had twist offs. I don't know. It's not a Canadian thing because I get Canadian beer that aren't twisties, so I don't know why they do it.
You can ask some of the Canadian beer viewers that you know, like what do they got? You got like Redbeard.
There's Maxwell Star.
Maxwell.
And then there's Lee. And then
Lee, of course, yes.
Albino Rhino, and then there's
he's Canadian.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's the reason a lot of us kind of met each other and stuff. He used to do so Chad from Albino Rhino Beer Review. He used to live in Niagara, between Niagara and Toronto, and he's the one who used to host all the online hangs, and that's where I started hanging online for the first time. And then ended up going up, and he used to have a festival down about Toronto Beer Festival, and that's where all of us met. You know what I mean? So yeah. But there's a bunch of them. There's a bunch of Canadian dudes off the 10th, and there's Bylog, and then there's Ewart, and there's a ton of Canadian dudes that are pretty cool.
Yeah, fun. Let's see what this QV does.
Yeah, I like them separate.
Yeah, I poured about equal measures, and the bourbon gets really lost.
Yeah, neuters the personality of each one. Each one gets neutered.
Yeah, because the bourbon gets lost, but what it does do is sort of counters. That's not the word. Like annihilate is overdoing it, but the bitterness, like that really deep bitterness that you get from the base beer, is also sort of like very tempered now. Yeah, I prefer them separate. I'm going to drink this because I'm paying for it.
But I have I have good 4 ounces left in each bottle, I think, maybe.
Yeah, but look at what I still have in the original glasses, and I still have about like this much in each bottle, so I'm good to go. Nice. And it's like nearly 11 here, so I'm going to sleep well tonight.
There you go, brother. So any last words before we cut this off?
Mostly that I just thought it was very fun to do another review with you.
Yeah, we should do it more often.
We'll look at some good stuff and
not even good stuff, man. You
stuff.
Get Miller High Life over there. What's up? You know what I mean? Like, let's.
I get Bud. I get Bud Light.
I'd review Bud. You get. We'll get a Bud and a Budvar, and we'll go back.
We're still looking into doing those Le Trappe beers.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to reach out to the importers and see if there's something going on because it's like honestly, like Isidore has always been like a weird one. I can get it, sometimes I can't, but
I know
the Trap Quad's been like I can get it whenever I want, and I just cannot find it. So I don't know if there's some kind of weird import issue. I'll have to see.
I have no clue. I don't know if anything changed there.
And that's with the because for those that don't know, we were talking about doing. Isidore, was it just Isidore, or was it quad? And
well, we talked about doing the Isidore or Isidore. I don't know how you pronounce it properly, but then we started talking about, because I sort of feel like it is quite. If I taste them separately, that is, I've never tasted them side by side. It really shares a lot with the quadruple, but more drinkable because it's only 7.5% ABV. So it's like you sort of get like a sort of more accessible version of the quad, and I love it, and I think that quaffability of it is just amazing. And then we started talking about we could do a review of comparing them, and does the Isidore really live up to, because what I've said before in the past, and I know there's a few beer drinkers who agree with me, the La Trappe quadruple is like one of the best beers out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's amazing. And every time I think about La Trappe, I think of the quadruple, the quad. But I like the Easy Door better. I like it more as a beer. And I really love to pick your brain on it because I know that for
We'll do it.
you,
I'll definitely find it because I know a place that has it. It's an hour and a half away, and I just haven't got up there.
exactly.
But yeah, I'll have to ask because it's not so much that like we don't get a lot of Belgian or Europe. It's the opposite. We're getting more and more stuff from. So it's not like it's like, oh, we're just not getting stuff from Belgium as much or Europe as much. No, we're getting even more. It's just we're not getting La Trappe. You know what I mean? Like everything else
It's
is
just fucking weird.
coming in much more in quantity. So yeah, it's weird. But that's the thing though. It's weird. Like there was actually, I mean, this is dating myself, but like in the United States, I don't know if this is everywhere in the globe. I can only speak to the United States, but around the turn of the century, La Trappe couldn't, at least in the United States, and this is why I say I don't know if it's everywhere, but at least in the United States, they couldn't sell their beer in the United States as La Trappe. They had to sell it as Brewery Koningshoven for like 3 years. So like if I have bottles of like Koningshoven Quad and Koningshoven Bach, it doesn't say La Trappe on it at all because there was something that they couldn't do it. So there were weird shit like that happens over here every now and then. So
Okay.
like
You need to sort of you don't need to. I hate it when people say you need because it feels like a command, but you need to figure out what that story is and save it for that review because that would be
okay. I'll figure it
you know,
out.
that
I
would
think
be, yeah,
it just had to do with a naming rights thing. But I'll look into it. If you actually search my archives, you'll see some reviews of Koningshoven, not La Trappe beers, because they don't say La Trappe on them at all. They're brewed at the brewery because it's Brewery Koningshoven is where La Trappe comes from. You know what I mean? So it's not La Trappe Brewery. It's Brewery Koningshoven that makes La Trappe. So like you could see, there's a couple of reviews on my channel of Koningshoven Quad or Koningshoven Bach.
And I just realized that I thought of the most amazing live stream that we could do. That's going to get us both completely fucked over.
Band. A vertical.
Also at the end, we should just get things like Chimay Blue, Rochefort 10, the La Trappe.
Yeah.
Maybe like a Gulden Draak. Get like
the end all be all of quads.
Even if we could get like a Westie 12, I can get Westie 12. We sell Westie. Did you know that
I could find it? It's not easy, but I can find one.
Did you know that Westie 12 actually is now commercially available?
Mm-hmm.
As in, it used to be commercially available as accidentally shops.
It's got a label and everything now.
It's got a label, but they're distributing it now, and it went from like costing 10 to 12 euros in shops going to like 5 euros now.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a shame in a way, but also, who's gonna complain?
Yeah, do that'd be a really good fun one to do. Like find as many quads as we can both get and do like the end all be all quad showdown.
People, if we tell people what we're going to be drinking,
it'd be like a 5-hour live stream that we're both mumbling at the end of, but it'd be fun.
And at the end, it's just going to be like the biggest cuvee ever. And here's the fuck all. We're gonna do that, dude. It's been amazing. Thank you so much for this.
Yeah.
I had a blast. This was awesome, and I'm just got some great beers to finish, and so do you. Those were my part. What are your parting words?
I mean, if I'm going to say anything, because I usually do my whole spiel about, is it good, price, and all that stuff. These are the beers from breweries like this and beers like this need to exist. And, a lot of breweries are going under and a lot of breweries are going away and, beers changing and stuff like that. But these are the beers that, like, honestly, like, I like even, like, until you brought it up, like, I'll see it on a shelf and go, man, I love that beer. I'll buy it next time. And I never buy it next time. And then when I buy it and then I drink it, I go, God damn it, why don't I buy that more? And I think there's a beers more people should drink. So next time you're walking past a bunch of the classics and stuff that you really enjoyed in the past, and you're like, yeah, I'll get that next time. Oh, how about now instead of next time?
I said something basically similar in a Westmalle triple review I posted a couple of days ago. these beers are not that expensive. They're probably a little bit more expensive for me than they are for you, but even then, they were both under a tenner, I believe. So I find that quite a good price for a beer from Canada here in the
I
Netherlands.
technically stole mine, like almost
you
stole them.
did. Of course.
No, not like
Steal, but
I felt bad. I felt really bad because the guy rang it up as a base Peche Mortel. I bought this in a 4-pack, so it was the Peche Mortel base. It was a Peche Mortel extra coffee. It was a Peche Mortel milkshake, and it was a Peche Mortel burn barrel aged. And it was supposed to be $30 for the 4-pack. And he rang it up as a base 4-pack for $13.99.
Jesus Christ!
I didn't say anything. That's on him.
What I'm saying is, buy them. Don't always go for the hype beers. Don't always go. Get the hype beers and support all the small breweries doing the amazing stuff. But realize that if you want to educate yourself on beer, you're not going to educate yourself by drinking only the hyped, very highly allocated, limited allocated, big bourbon barrel aged pastry stouts with 15 adjuncts. But realize the fact that there's this great 4-core, sub 10%. I'm going to call it 4-core because I feel that when you have an adjunct that amplifies flavors already there, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And by 4-core, we're including Belgian candied sugar because technically.
Exactly. And coffee is an adjunct, but it amplifies flavors already in the beer. So that's what I'm saying. You're going to suddenly educate yourself. Educate yourself on what beer really is, period. There you go. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, look at Thomas. He still doesn't really understand good beer, and he's still learning. So,
I mean, and that with me being like what 4.5 feet in length and shit like that. You know?
And
those aren't swords; those are pocket knives.
You Hollandaise people, man.
Fucking Hollandaise. This was brilliant, man.
That's it.
Love you, homie.
Love you too, brother.
And
till next time. Go check out if you're watching Thomas's channel. Go check him out on his channel that you're watching right now.
Absolutely, and don't forget to check out Matt. Of course, go and look up his channel. Matt. I see his face right now, and I won't forget to put a link to his channel in the description box below. Also, please, there's a huge amount of amazing American beer tubers out there that I follow, chat with. So go check all of these guys out, like No Hype Beer Reviews, Beer Patrol, Nerd Sense. Who am I forgetting here? FLX.
93 Lumber.
93 Lumber. Of course, check all of these guys out. Check out my homies in the Dutch Beer Collective. And see all of you guys in another review soon. Cheers.
Peace.